Using Swift to create a professional application for Apple products, a senior challenge project by Luke Beatty, SPHS class of 2017. Senior Challenge is an exploratory experimental project of the student's own design which is based on an area of particular interest to the student. It is a senior year capstone experience similar to those found in a college setting that involves working with a community mentor, developing a professional research paper, and creating a formal presentation of the project. I chose to take Senior Challenge for a couple of reasons. I have been involved in the Career Development Center since freshman year and worked closely with the coordinator Nancy Lavarnway, who also runs the Senior Challenge program. Through this connection, I was exposed to some of the previous year's participants and their projects, and I was always interested in their work and inspired by their dedication and individuality. Another reason I partook in the challenge was because of my interest in computer science. After taking a CS class earlier in my high school career that sparked my interest in the subject, I wanted to continue my studies more aggressively, on top of taking AP Computer Science as well. This opened a door for me into not only a new programming language, but also new connections in the computer science community. After finding that I absolutely loved working on my project and felt passionate about my work, it led me to decide on computer science as a major in college for next year. Some people choose to take senior year a little less seriously and take a few more periods off from school than previous years. That was not the case for me. I'll be graduating with a total of 8 course credits from just this year, which means I did not have a single off period throughout the week. This choice proved to be crucial in my motivation in not only my regular schoolwork, but also in my Senior Challenge project. I'm currently enrolled in 3 AP classes: Calculus, Computer Science, and Biology. On top of that, I took a course at the University of Vermont in the fall called Intro to Programming. Outside of academics, I was a member of the Backcountry Ski Club, a captain of the Varsity Ultimate Team, a Student Council Executive Officer, the database manager through the Career Development Center, a slam leader for a group of 15 freshmen, and went through the process of applying to college in the fall. The following is the statement of my project, which can also be found in my research paper. Senior Challenge is an exploratory, experimental project of the student's own design, which is based on an area of particular interest to the student. This Senior Challenge will have a format similar to a seminar at the undergraduate level. The research portion of this paper will outline the expectations and norms for successful apps in the developer community, as well as standards that the student finds are necessary for a professional app. It will discuss the programming language of Swift, and how this language is incorporated with Xcode to connect the design of the application and the code that defines the actions of the app. Lastly, the research paper will review the process of developing the app and publishing it to the App Store. Throughout the year, I was fortunate enough to work closely with Brian Leffler, who served as my mentor in the project. Brian works as the co-president of Instrumart, a company based in South Burlington, Vermont that sells industrial and laboratory instruments. He has an impressive background in computer science and computer programming, and is fluent in a handful of programming languages. Brian was instrumental throughout the year for me. He was always there when I had a question about a piece of code or was struggling with the program I used, and would check in with me often to make sure I was on the right track. He has been and continues to be an incredible resource to have. The following is a portion of the research I completed for my project. A more complete and in-depth overview can be found in my research paper. There are a variety of application standards used throughout the development community to ensure quality of product. Apple has its own standards set out for the developers to use as they wish, however they are not required. The first standard set out by Apple is simplicity. The company strongly believes in ease of use, second only to functionality. Another standard for developers is that their code be open and complete. This means that others can view the code and it is complete with comments. Both of these simple expectations relate directly to collaboration of developers. Apple sets forth a passion for collaboration, coupled with the idea that 2 minds are smarter than one. The last prevalent standard that Apple sets out for developers is the idea that updates should be plentiful and effective. Just because an application or program is published does not mean that it is the best it can be. There is always room for improvement, and it is through collaboration and review that applications grow and become more successful. There are numerous correlations between the programming languages of Python and Swift. Both languages use code comments, however Swift uses a multi-line comment style as well as single line. Python has a typed system, although it is not evident in its syntax, and is a dynamic language. Swift uses a heavy amount of type interference and is strongly typed language. Both languages have Unicode strings and a variety of present functions on strings. They both employ similar use of dictionaries and conditional statements. One main difference between the two is that Swift has switch statements, while Python does not. Switch statements use the result of changing variable to alter the outcome of a program. In conclusion, both languages are similar in structure and given functions. However, Swift has more compatibility with third-party interfaces. Due to its given libraries, as well as its ability to function with other libraries, Swift can be used with features such as interface builders and simulators. This makes it a prime option for app development. Xcode is a product created by Apple for application development. Its seemingly endless features, including links to libraries, easily maneuverable storyboard creator, and app simulator, make it an obvious choice to create my app with. The program makes it incredibly easy to link code to the graphical user interface, or GUI. The process of creating a program, designing and writing the code is generally referred to as the program development cycle. There are 5 stages to this cycle. 1. Designing the program. 2. Writing the code for the program. 3. Correcting any found syntax errors. 4. Testing the program. And 5. Correcting any logic errors found in results. The first step in the cycle, designing the program, helps keep the programmer organized before writing code. This step is incredibly important because the process of writing code can become very disorganized and hard to process if the code is not easy to follow. This key step also helps in later refinements, such as finding syntax errors. The next step, writing the code, requires the programmer to employ a high-level language such as Python or Swift. This code is what the computers actually read, and in order to run the developer's algorithm. The programmer must follow the programming language's syntax rules that dictate the language's operators, keywords, and how punctuation characters are used. If these syntax rules are not followed, a syntax error occurs. These errors are shown by the interpreter, or the language compiler. Step 3 of the program development cycle involves finding and fixing these errors. The interpreter often specifies where in the code the errors are located by giving the line and surrounding parameters of the error. Once all the syntax errors are corrected, the program can then be executed by the interpreter. The next step, testing the program, requires users to run the code in executable form and see if the program provides the desired outcome based on what was designed for the program. A mistake that causes the program to produce an incorrect result but does not stop the program from running is called a logic error. The last step involves correcting any logic errors in the code of the program. This process is called debugging. Once all logic errors are corrected, the program is complete. Computer programs are written in order to translate a set of actions for a computer to read and perform. These programs can be anything from reading a text file to creating a three-dimensional world for users to explore remotely. Programs, especially more complex programs, have to be carefully thought out and designed before they are put into code. A few ways that programmers stay organized in designing their program is through pseudocode and flowcharts. Pseudocode, in the basic form of the word, means fake code. It utilizes basic languages, such as English, with no syntax rules to describe the program before it is created. It is not meant to be executed or compiled in any way, rather to help the programmer write the code and stay organized. Flowcharts are a more graphic representation of the steps that take place in the desired program. It uses different shapes, ovals, parallelograms, and rectangles to represent different steps in the program. Ovals are called terminal symbols and represent the start and end of the program. Parallelograms represent input and output symbols, or points in the program where information is read or displayed. Lastly, rectangles are called processing symbols and represent parts in the program that process data such as calculations. There are a variety of concepts within computer programming that transfer across all languages. These include methods, lists and tuples, files and exceptions, functions, repetition structures, decision structures, Boolean logic, input, processing, and output. The following research delves deeper into some specific topics that were used extensively throughout my project. There are a variety of data types used in computer programming, some more complex than others. Strings, or characters, are groups of characters that are used as literal constants or another type of variable. They are essentially words or phrases used in code for user comprehension. Boolean values are true and false, which are primarily used for conditional statements. An integer is a whole number, such as 4, that is used in data processing. When a numerical value is used that requires a decimal, such as 4.5, it is called a float or a double. There are two different types for decimals and whole numbers because the program requires less processing to work with integers than float values. This distinction can make a program less complicated. Oftentimes, data values are assigned to a parent value called a variable. A variable is a name that represents a piece of data. The most general format for assigning variables is variable equals expression. In this scenario, the variable could be anything that the programmer assigns. The expression represents the data that is used to assign the variable. Variables can be reassigned to new expressions, as well as processed with other variables. There are a few rules when it comes to naming variables. First, the name must not use any pre-assigned keywords given by the programming language, such as print. This would interfere with the function of the keyword. The name cannot have any spaces, as that would represent a gap between data sets. Lastly, the variable names are case sensitive, so lowercase v variable is different than capital V variable. This is a common syntax error found in most new programs. Most programming languages have built-in operators that can be easily used for mathematical calculations. In Python, those operators include, but are not limited to, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, integer division, remainder, and exponent. It is important for programmers to use these operators not only for integers and floats, but for the variables themselves. Repetition structures are used throughout computer programming to cause a statement or set of statements to be executed a repeated number of times. They are very useful for programs that require repetition in tasks and keep the code itself much more contained. One example of a repetition structure used in Python is the while loop. This loop is classified as a condition-controlled loop, meaning that it uses Boolean logic to determine whether to continue the loop or terminate it. It uses the simple format of while x is true, do the following task. Another example of a repetition structure used in Python is the for loop. This loop is classified as a count-controlled loop, meaning it iterates a set number of times. This loop can use a list of numbers to determine how many times the loop executes. One of the most important concepts in computer programming is the use of functions. A function is a group of statements in a program that perform one common task. Functions have a variety of advantages, including breaking down code trends for reuse, making it easier to test smaller groups of code instead of the entire program, and creating easier facilitation of teamwork on programs. Functions are created by defining the function and then calling the function in the main group of code. One way that programmers are able to keep their code organized is by making comments in the actual code. All programming languages have built-in punctuation characters, such as pound symbols, which are used for putting comments in the code. Once this symbol is in the code, anything written after that in that line is not read by the program. This is useful when programmers collaborate on the same program. The original goal of this Senior Challenge project was to create a professional Apple application prototype that would fill a gap within the hiking community. The first draft of the app is near completion before debugging and is on the right track to be successful. Individuals and groups have already expressed interest in the services that the application will provide, and many features of the app are already complete. The beginning of the research completed for this project was focused on industry standards for Apple applications and what makes them successful on the marketplace. Over 90% of the information found within this subject range focused on design and visual appeal to the user. At the current stage in development, the primary focus has been on industry standards, concepts, and programming languages, while visual appeal has had a minimal focus. The main concepts researched, including functions, repetition structures, Boolean logic, and methods, have all been utilized in the application in a variety of ways. By researching and practicing these concepts through Python and Swift, I was able to implement them seamlessly into the application. The conclusion of this research for the project focused on the programming language of Swift. This language was chosen because of its compatibility with Apple products. The correlations between Python and Swift made it relatively easy to transition between the languages. One of the groups who has expressed interest in the application, the Green Mountain Club, have agreed to use the first draft of the application in the field. With a varying group size of anywhere from 30 to 60 individuals, a significant amount of constructive feedback will be given in order to perfect the application's features and overall ease of use. This process of trial and error will be completed multiple times with members of the Green Mountain Club, as well as with other known individuals who are active hikers in the area. Overall, this project was a massive success. Not only did it teach me Swift, Xcode, and other programming skills through experience, but it also provided me with an opportunity to connect with other programmers and computer science majors in the community. One of the biggest strengths throughout the project was exposure to a new language. The language of Swift is completely different than anything I had used in the past, and although this may have led to a more lengthy research process, I benefited greatly in the end. These are skills that I will be able to take with me to college and beyond. Another positive that came from this project was publicity. Through newspaper articles, presentations, and networking, my name was reported as a young, aspiring computer programmer, which has and will continue to benefit me professionally. The following is an article written about my project in the community newspaper, The Other Paper.
Beatty creates new app. Senior year of high school is usually a time when students finalize their plans for after graduation. At South Burlington High School, students also have an opportunity to take part in Senior Challenge, a half-credit elective offered to all seniors. It is similar to a capstone project in that students choose their project topic, work with a mentor from the community who has expertise in a field related to that topic, and present the results of their project in a research paper. One of this year's participating seniors is Luke Beatty. His interest lies in computer programming, and he is making an app for the hiking community that will allow people to find hikes in their area, as well as post reviews and photos of hikes they have taken. He decided to create the app not only because of his passion for hiking, but also because he says there are no apps available that are similar to the one that he is developing. In preparation to write code to create the app, Beatty took a class in the fall at the University of Vermont. The community member working with Beatty is Brian Leffler, the CEO of Instrumart, a company on Green Mountain Drive that makes test and measurement instruments. Beatty meets with Leffler every so often to go over code and set out a plan and timeline for the future. They also review the project as a whole to make sure he is on the right track. Beatty says Leffler has been very supportive. I can ask him questions with any problems that I have with my development. He's helped me get on track with narrowing down exactly what I want to do and how I should go about it. Beatty started the project last summer when he began doing research on the programming language he would have to learn. At this stage of his project, his main focus is writing code with a new interface called Xcode, which is used to develop apps for Apple products. Beatty says it is time-consuming but also rewarding because he cannot wait to see the finished product. Beatty encourages other students to take advantage of the Senior Challenge because of its valuable experience. He says, "I think more people should do it because it teaches you to be independent and have a sense of accomplishment that you wouldn't get outside of Senior Challenge."
The most challenging aspect of this project has been consistently finding time to write code on top of all of my other homework and activities. Especially with spring sports starting recently, my free time has gone downhill significantly. The application has become something that I look forward to working on and enjoy writing code for, almost used as a break from my regular homework. This being said, I've had to prioritize certain assignments over others in order to get my schoolwork done on time and not let the project take over my day-to-day schoolwork. The following is an evaluation written by my mentor, Brian Leffler. To whom it may concern. Last summer, Luke approached me and asked me if I would be his mentor for a senior challenge project. I replied yes without hesitation and asked him what he would like to work on. He told me that he would like to develop an iPhone app. I thought it was an ambitious project, but knowing Luke, I was not too worried about it. At the end of the summer, we got together for a few brainstorming sessions and came up with a few ideas. As Luke is an avid outdoorsman and hiking enthusiast, he quickly honed in on an app for the hiking community. Once again, I was worried about the scope of the project and we openly discussed it. He was undeterred. As Luke was new to iPhone app development, I suggested creating a quick throwaway app to learn the concepts before starting to work on the hiking app, and he quickly set to work learning the required skills and developing the throwaway app. He completed the throwaway app in the fall and started working on the hiking app during the winter and the spring. He has made very good progress with minimal intervention from me. The mentor appraisal rubric supplied by the school asked me to rate Luke in a number of categories. I would like to speak to the 4 questions on the bottom of the rubric with respect to Luke. Meeting deadlines. I was impressed with Luke's ability to work on this project throughout the school year, given that the Senior Challenge project is in addition to his regular senior class schedule. Cooperation and motivation. Luke is a self-motivated and a self-starter. This is going to serve him well in both college and in his career. He is also easy to work with. I am impressed with Luke's ability to listen to instruction and advice and consider that information in the context with what he already knows or understands about the subject matter. Comprehension. Given that Luke decided to undertake this project using a new computer language that he did not know, I think his comprehension skills are excellent. He had to learn the Apple Swift programming language to even begin this project. He learned this all on his own with minimal help from me. Research skills. Referencing the previous bullet point, Luke clearly has excellent research skills to learn this type of app development on his own. This will serve him well in the future. It is my opinion that Luke has done an outstanding job working on an ambitious senior challenge project that will be usable in the real world once it is completed. I was happy to be his mentor on this project, and I would like to do so again if asked. If you have any questions or comments about Luke, this project, or this evaluation, please feel free to contact me. Best regards, Brian Leffler. I would like to thank Nancy Lavarnway for putting countless hours into revisions and meetings for the project, Claire Buckley for revising my research paper and citations, and Brian Leffler for his continued support through the creation of the application. The research paper will be housed in the South Burlington Community Library, located at 550 Dorset Street, South Burlington, Vermont, 05403. Thank you.